Hey besties and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be ranking K-pop companies. I'm not someone who's heavily invested in business, but this is mostly based off of what I've seen. Honestly, all of these companies are still shitty within their own right at the end of the day, but some better than others. Also, here's a quick look at the tiers. Now, let's get started with the video. Honestly, the only reason I know of them is because of Sunmi, but from what I've seen, they don't seem too bad. I think the way they handled the recent Bam Bam situation was a little weird though. Like, I get they want to protect their artists, but at least be honest with the situation. However, I think they promote their artists pretty well and overall an okay company. So, I'm gonna put them in the decent tier. Well, where do I even start? We've been knew this company treated Loona terrible since debut, but ever since last year, it's been so terrible. From Chu missing promotions, having to do everything on her own and getting kicked out due to the company's pettiness to half of the Loona members missing out on their tour because of injuries and mental health. It's just insane that Blockberry did that without any shame whatsoever. I feel like what made it worse is how they handled the entire Chu situation. Usually companies that has a member leave will do damage control by saying it was mutual or just being very vague. But no, this company had to be manipulative by literally blaming Chu and accusing her of bullying the staff. Like, be so for real right now. I don't think I've ever seen a more egotistical and unprofessional company in my life. They literally kicked out their biggest money maker and falsely accused her of violence because they couldn't take the heat. It's truly disgusting how they tried to ruin the girl's career like that. Especially because they knew the Moon girlies were gonna obviously have Chu's back and not take their shit anymore. We may not get to OT12 Loona for a long time, but I'm happy that Odd Eye Circle is pretty much back along with Heejin. Chu is done with BBC, and the girls will hopefully leave as well. At the end of the day, we all know that BBC needed Loona and is nothing without them. Obviously, I'm gonna put them in the prison time tier. I think the whole Soojin situation really showed Cube's true colors. I think people thought they weren't bad since they let G-Idol produce their own songs from debut, but that whole Soojin thing and CLC situation really showed how bad they are. I just think it's so crazy how CLC could have been really popular if they just promoted them more and listened to the girls. They had so much potential, but you could tell around 2019. They just abandoned them until they all left. I really don't get it because they were releasing hit after hit that people loved, so why give up on them so easily? As for G-Idol, I feel like they were doing good up until the bullying scandal. It's like they just wanted to appease the public and go wherever they were thinking instead of investigating more and believing their artists more. I don't know how they're doing with Light Sun because I don't listen to or follow them, but I heard that a member left, so it's kind of questionable. I wouldn't say they're the worst, but they deserve all the criticism they get, so I'm gonna put them in the just bad tier.
I got nothing to lose. 널 좋아한다고.
I know that ADOR is a pretty new company and only has new jeans so far, but there's been a lot going on with them in the past year. I don't think it would be that bad if it wasn't for the whole cookie situation, because that was a mess. This isn't the first time a company have given inappropriate concepts or lyrics to young idols, but the fact that most of them are minors is seriously questionable. Besides that, I think they've been styling them pretty appropriately so far, which is the bare minimum, but good, and I think it's really good that they're actually paying them this early on while giving them good promotions. So, I'm gonna put them in the decent tier.
When I move, my body 흔들어 봐. When I move, 더 자유롭게 breaking all the rules. When I move.
I don't know much about DSP Media besides that fact that Kara and April are in that company. and I think KARD is as well. Again, I haven't really heard much from this company in terms of controversy or scandals, but my only I've seen that isn't that great is their promotions. I know they don't have the most popular or active groups in their company, but they could at least try to promote them more and give them opportunities that'll show them to the public more. Also, I've saw their former artists and there were a lot that disbanded in a short amount of time, so it seems like they're the type of company to not give much attention to groups that aren't somewhat popular, so that was a little weird to me. I'm gonna put them in the side-eye tier. Even though they seem alright now, I feel like people don't talk enough about how they treated AOA. To my knowledge, it wasn't abusive or anything, but I remember hearing about Cha leaving due to depression. Of course that itself isn't really the company's fault, but since she left so suddenly, I feel like they could have done more to help her out or give her therapy. I also notice how they treat their girl groups versus boy groups. Obviously, we know misogyny is very blatant in the K-pop industry, but you can tell they put much more attention towards groups like SF9 and P1 Harmony rather than Cherry Bullet. I don't think they're terrible, but could have been better, so even though I was gonna put them in the side-eye tier, I'm gonna put them in the just bad tier. Well, there's a lot to say about this company. First off, I will say that it's good that they let most of the groups self-produce or write, even early in their careers, and how close other groups are with each other. However, we need to acknowledge how truly shitty JYP and the company as a whole is. Most of the girl groups besides NMIXX and mostly itzy, have been heavily sexualized when they were still minors. For example, when Hyuna was in the Wonder Girls, she had two very inappropriate dance moves while wearing revealing clothing while only being 14 years old. I feel like people don't talk about this enough, but JYP also took the Wonder Girls to R. Kelly's house when they were still minors, and mind you, this is when practically everyone knew about what he did. There's way more like that Chewy elevator commercial, Miss A's debut, and more. Although this part isn't nearly as bad as the other stuff, I think that he easily gives up on groups that aren't instantly successful, like with GOT7 or Day6. I know the company has made some amazing groups, but JYP honestly disgusts me, and the company isn't that great either. I already put them in his side-eye tier, but I'm just gonna say I'll put them in the just bad tier.
Take a flow shower.
Y'all remember when people were saying how certain idols that left a group or company should sign to P Nation, because they practically became known as a savior company? I don't know if it's just me, but I always found that weird. Like, yeah, they helped out Hyuna and Donhin Q kicked them out, but they're not just heroic company. Anyways, I don't think they're really a bad company, and Psy seems like a nice CEO so far, but I've noticed that he seems to not really listen to his artists' ideas or thoughts. I heard that he'll sometimes get into arguments with his artists because of artistic direction, and I think as a CEO, he should try to communicate better. I also think it's kind of odd how most of his popular artists left the company and the only ones left are HYBE, Crush, and some other Nuku artists. With the Crush scandal that happened a while ago, it's like HYBE and himself are the only long-lasting successful artists, so I'm gonna put them in the decent tier.
This time I wanna rock with you, moonlight, if I'm shine on you tonight, I wanna rock with you.
I used to think that Pledis was just an okay company with amazing artists, but after hearing about how they've terribly mismanaged some groups really changed my opinion on them. I think the biggest mistake they've made is the way they treated Priscine. Like, even though I didn't stan them, I still tend to think about how they had so much potential to become really popular and successful. They barely promoted them and just abandoned them with no warning or anything. Same thing with After School. They were doing so good until like 2012. They pretty much were forgotten about until their last comeback with First Love, then were never really heard from again besides some Orange Caramel comebacks. I heard that one of the members even waiting for comebacks, but there was no response, even though the company was pretty much broke when 17 debuted. they still did nothing to help them out. I mean, they literally had to buy their own mics and clothes and style themselves as rookies. Now, we're not hearing from Fromis9 either, which is kind of concerning. It's such a shame that there's extremely talented artists in this company, but terrible management, so I'm gonna put them in the just bad tier.
Give me more. Give me more.
I know they're connected with HYBE now, but I think that Big Hit is still an independent and private company, so I still want to talk about them. They've definitely had times where they did messed up stuff, like having Jungkook lift up his shirt when he was only 14 and body shaming majority of them, but I actually don't think they're as bad compared to other companies. They promoted them pretty well along with TXT, lets them self-write and produce from debut and listens to their ideas. The only thing that they really fucked up with was the whole glam controversy. Like, because of that one issue they literally didn't want to debut any girl groups for years. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous. No company is really good if we think about it, but they're a bit better than some others I've seen, so I'm gonna put them in the actually good so far tier. To my knowledge, they don't seem as bad as I actually thought. They do a pretty good job at promoting their artists, such as putting them on variety shows as a group and by themselves, and gives their groups high quality music. I haven't heard too many scandals besides that one Ho1, which could have been handled a bit better because it just sucks that he left because of the situation. But at least they didn't kick him out. The only problem I've really seen is the favoritism in some groups, mainly IVE right now. I do think some people are stretching when talking about one young standing out, but it is pretty obvious that the company plays a big part of making her the whole face of the group and making sure she stands out. Like with their 11 promotions, they would sometimes give her a complete different dress that stood out and give her more lines than the main vocalist, which I find a bit weird honestly. It's nothing against her, but I think the company needs to be more fair with that group and actually give Liz the lines and screen time she deserves, so I'm gonna put them in the decent tier.
You want some sweet juice? You wanna pop it, 조금씩 drippin', 분명을
I don't know much about the company itself besides the fact that Purple Kiss and Mamamoo are under that company, but I haven't really seen or heard of them doing anything bad or shady. The only thing is that their promotions aren't as great. They have good creative direction for their artists, but I feel like they don't promote them as much. Besides that, they seem alright, so I'm gonna put them in the actually good so far tier.
It's your birthday.
Honestly, I feel like SM is way worse than we realize. Don't get me wrong, they have some of the most talented artists in the industry, make amazing music and concepts, and just know how to utilize their artists' talents most of the time. However, we can't just brush by all of the scandals they've horribly dealt with and the mistreatment of their artists. They just remove people and push them to the point where they have no choice but to leave. Too many members of NCT have had issues where they were seriously overworked and not taking their injuries into consideration until it gets worse. Speaking of which, the thing that pisses me off the most is how they started talking about mental health literal years after two of their idols ended their lives due to not protecting them or giving them the help they need. Like, that should have been taken care of after it happened. For them to have such talented idols, you'd think they would take care of them more. Yes, they have so much creativity and great discographies from their groups, but they really need to do better, so I'm gonna put them in the just bad tier. I know they're more of an umbrella company, but I still need to talk about it, because they're really a bad company honestly. They handle controversies pretty bad and had a really bad habit of giving their groups the same sound or concept for like 2 years. In 2020, practically every group in HYBE was doing the retro trend. Then in 2021, everyone besides BTS was doing the rock trend. It's not that bad considering those are good sounds, but each of these groups have their own sound and concept, so it's just lazy to mush them all together and give them the same thing. They also handled tours pretty poorly. Overall, I just noticed how problems occurred after some pleads and big hit groups joined HYBE. It's very weird. Instead of improve, they're causing problems, and I think they also did chart manipulation as really with just not caring about their artist safety, so I'm gonna put them in the prison time tier.
When we pull up, you know it's a shutdown. 간판 내리고 문 잠가 shutdown. Whip it, whip it, whip it, whip it. Whip it, whip it, whip it, whip it.
I feel like YG's strategies are so fucked up but weird. Like in the first year or so when Kill This Love came out, it kind of worked because everyone was so hyped up since they haven't come back in a while, but now it's getting tired. I feel like now, it's just a lazy move, because they for some reason don't want to give their biggest group more comebacks or even albums. I could understand if they had a full album or bigger mini album each comeback. There's barely anything. I also think it's so sad how 2NE1 was treated. I don't really listen to them, but hearing how they were called ugly by their CEO all the time and weren't protected from the public is so wrong. Now, I know this is the second time I misplaced their tiers, because I didn't think about it until after, but let's just say I'm gonna put them in the prison time tier instead of side-eye tier. And that's the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed. Please like and subscribe if you'd want, and have a good day. Bye besties.